Welcome to the Marine Group's ecosystem video, focusing on the Baltic Sea. With a total area of 404,354 square kilometers, the Baltic Sea is a small sea on global scale, but it's actually the second largest body of brackish water in the world, with the only connection to the rest of the marine world through the Danish Straits. Bordering 9 countries, it's the home to more than 85 million people. The Baltic reached its current form and salinity level only 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, versus, for example, the Atlantic Ocean, which is assumed to be 180 to 200 million years old. So this is an immature ecosystem. Freshwater is delivered from rivers and streams, draining an area 4 times the sea itself, versus saltwater, which is only coming in through the Danish Straits. There is decreasing salinity the further north and east you go in the Baltic, as you can see on the map indicated by the yellow color. The difference in salinity affects the density of the water, which causes stratification of the water and varying hypoxia and anoxia on the seafloor. In 1974, the first convention to protect the Baltic from pollution was signed. Today, the governing body of the convention is the Helsinki Commission, the Baltic Marine Environment Protection Commission, also known as HELCOM. All the bordering countries and the EU are contracting parties. Because of the low salinity, there are only a few marine animal and plant species that survive. It has been estimated that there are about 100 fish species living in the Baltic Sea and 9 million birds of 30 different species that are using the Baltic as a wintering area. Of mammals, there are 3 seal species: the gray seal, which you can see in this video, the Baltic ringed seal, and the harbor seal. There is 1 species of porpoise, the harbor porpoise, which is also living in the Baltic. The Eurasian otter, which is not generally regarded as a marine mammal, is often also mentioned in this group. According to the HELCOM Red List, 59 species are considered threatened or declining. This list includes all marine mammals, at least in some parts of the Baltic. Major threats to the marine mammals are eutrophication because of fertilization and sewage from agriculture, overfishing and bycatch, pollution by pesticides, waste material, oil, and others, introduction of alien species, and construction, such as damming and dredging. Infectious diseases are considered as a secondary threat in the Baltic today.
There are many hazardous substances to be found in the Baltic, especially persistent bioaccumulating and toxic substances, or PBTs. These include heavy metals, which are toxic at high concentrations, and persistent organic pollutants, or POPs, such as PCBs, DDTs, PBDEs, and organotin compounds. These may be toxic even at low concentrations. There are also still elevated concentrations of radionuclides since the Chernobyl disaster. As you can see, the vast majority of this ecosystem has been disturbed by hazardous substances indeed. These pollutants have an effect on wildlife health in many ways. Seabirds, for instance, accumulate pollutants through ingestion of food and water, which has physiological, developmental, behavioral, and reproductive consequences. On an individual level as well as a population level, birds partly reflect the degree of contamination. As top predators on a high trophic level, seabirds serve as sentinels and indicators of ecosystem health, since they rely on food sources that biomagnify pollutants on the one hand, and can often be found in colonies on the other, which makes it easier for diseases to spread. A toxicological sampling, both invasive and non-invasive, has shown that some pollutants have decreased over the years due to conservation efforts, while others have increased. Moreover, evidence from histopathology and hematology has shown that pollutants not only have immediate toxic effects on birds, such as hemolytic anemia and hemocyanurosis after ingestion of petrochemicals, but are also linked with an impaired immune response, which results in, for instance, fewer leukocytes and higher heterophil lymphocyte ratios. This makes animals prone to secondary bacterial and fungal infections, parasitic infestations, and cancer. This contaminant-induced immunosuppression affects not only birds, but wildlife in general. In a heavily polluted ecosystem such as the Baltic, animals are expected to be more susceptible to disease due to impaired immunity. This is a possible cause for concern regarding emerging diseases in densely populated areas.
Let's have a look at infectious diseases in the Baltic Sea. Marine mammals are long-lived top consumers and often inshore living, which makes them perfect sentinel species for marine ecosystem health. They are therefore important to study in order to gain more knowledge about pathogens present in the marine environment. Today, little is still known about infectious diseases in the marine environment, and even less is known about infectious diseases present in the Baltic Sea. So far, only a few virus, parasites, and bacterial pathogens have been identified. Some of these pathogens have zoonotic potential. Salmonella and Trichinella are two examples of so-called spillover infections, which means that marine mammals are not the primary host of the pathogen. Let's have a closer look at one of these. A widely spread disease in marine environments is brucellosis. Although the presence of marine brucella in the Baltic Sea had been fully investigated, Brucella pinidae had been identified in seals and other marine mammals of the German North Sea. A Finnish study have also found Brucella-positive lung parasites in dead grey seals in the Baltic Sea, which could indicate that it's an emerging disease in the region. Marine brucellosis is a zoonosis and could cause disease in both humans and animals. But what about symptoms and transmission? Let's have a look. In marine mammals, Brucella pinidae has mainly been extracted from clinically healthy animals, mostly from seals. But bronchopneumonia, neurological and reproductive signs such as abortion have also been reported. A few cases of human marine brucellosis have been identified with symptoms such as headache, fatigue, and severe sinusitis. Experimental infection with marine brucella in cattle and sheep have been successful, resulting in abortion. It's not yet fully understood how the disease is spreading, but among marine wildlife, horizontal and vertical transmission and parasites as vectors have been suggested. From wildlife to humans and other land-living animals, the disease could potentially be transmitted through close contact as well by consumption of raw meat from fish and marine mammals. How could marine brucellosis then affect the Baltic? At first hand, we have the impact on marine wildlife. Marine brucellosis has mostly been identified in clinically healthy seals, but since the marine brucellosis just recently been identified in Baltic seals, we are not sure of the effect it could have on the population. Like we said before, the Baltic Sea is a highly polluted ecosystem with lots of anthropogenic activities, both being important stress factors that could lead to impaired immunity and the development of clinical disease. Abortion is one of the clinical signs of brucellosis in marine mammals. Baltic seals are already low in number, and the disease could therefore be another potential threat to the population. On the second hand, we have the impact on humans and land-living animals. Close contact between marine mammals and the general public or land-living animals is low, and therefore the risk of transmission is also low. But awareness of the disease is needed to protect humans working closely with marine mammals. In the future, there's a few actions needed. We need more research to gain more knowledge about marine brucellosis. We need to know more about its prevalence in the Baltic Sea and how it's transmitted in order to develop ways to control and prevent the disease from spreading to humans, land-living animals, and other marine animals. Further research is important to understand the effects the disease might have on the Baltic seal population as well as the entire ecosystem. So that's our ecosystem video. Thank you so much for watching this, and we really hope you liked it. Thanks.